All right, everybody, here we are for episode 97 of Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. I'm flying solo this week as Wayne is unfortunately under the weather, so it's going to be 2 weeks without Wayne. He should be back and healthy next week, so I look forward to that episode with him and his return. One thing to mention at the top that I'll definitely talk to Wayne about next week as well is the passing of actor Ray Liotta. I want to just say that we send our condolences to his family. Obviously, we were both big fans. Goodfellas and Copland are my two favorite Ray Liotta films. But you could find him also great in No Escape, a movie from the 90s. Even though it's a bad movie, Turbulence, he gives a fantastic performance. One of my under-the-radar picks I like a lot from him is Phoenix. Kind of like a film noir that he did back in the day, an indie film before indie films were really super popular. His turn in Hannibal and Blow. Also, one of my favorites is Narc. He's great in Identity. So lots of good movies to kind of pick from. Slow Burn was one he did in 05 that I thought was pretty decent. So check out some other Ray Liotta films if you are, feel like you need to catch up on the guy, because as one of my friends put earlier this week on Facebook, he's had a pretty interesting career. From leading man to go-to character actor. Ray Liotta's kind of done it all, from comedy to action, horror even a little bit. So check out his catalog, and again, rest in peace to Ray Liotta. He will be missed by the film community. So this week we are going to be doing kind of explosive, dumb action movies. That's what I kind of settle on. So I'll just give you three picks that I like. This is going to be a quick episode, probably no more than 30 minutes, but I'm going to just kind of go into some big, dumb movies I like. I will say big dumb movies from the 90s and early 2000s. A lot of them starred Nicolas Cage. So my first one is going to be a Nick Cage special. It's called Gone in 60 Seconds. I know everyone's like, oh, the original's better. The original's better. It probably is. I haven't seen it, but I like the big, dumb action film starring Nicolas Cage, Angelina Jolie, Giovanni Ribisi, Christopher Eccleston, Robert Duvall, Vinnie Jones, Delroy Lindo, Chi McBride, and Will Patton. Also, Scott Caan is in this one as one of Giovanni Ribisi's friends. It is two brothers, Randall Raines and Kip Raines. Kip Raines gets into trouble as Randall Raines is a retired car thief, and Kip gets into trouble with the bad guy, Christopher Eccleston. He's promised him a certain amount of cars, and they're going to kill him. So they bring Nicolas Cage's character comes back to help his brother steal all these cars. And meanwhile, the FBI, played by Delroy Lindo and Timothy Olyphant, are right on their tail. So it's one of those movies that everyone's constantly chasing everybody, and you always have to look out for the cops. And there's always the bad guys always tend to be one step ahead. It revolves around this one car that's like been the unstealable car for Cage's character, and that's the car that he wants to get. It's got great chase scenes, great explosions, a great line from Timothy Olyphant when he asks these two cops if they're okay, and they're like, no, and he's like, are you sure? Because you just went through a wall. So there's lots of fun, snappy dialogue, witty performances, great performances from everybody involved. It's one of those movies that the actors had to buy into, and you could tell they did, and they had a really great time making it. So it really makes it for an enjoyable film. And of course, when you pair Nicolas Cage with the great Angelina Jolie, I mean, chemistry is bound to happen anyway, because she's just really that good. It's a fun movie. One of those ones I see pop up in a lot of the streaming services from time to time. So if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a while, definitely check out Gone in 60 Seconds. All right, my next big dumb movie. Most of these, I did not choose a Michael Bay movie, but we are reviewing a Michael Bay movie this week. So the next one is, instead of going with Transporter, I went with Transporter 2. Because my story with Transporter is the first time I saw Transporter, I was not a fan. But then I saw a trailer for the second one, and my buddy Jason Larson was like, hey, I want to go see that, so you better, watch Transporter again. I'm like, fine, this stupid movie. So I watched it, and I'm like, you know what? It's not bad. It's really not a terrible film. It's fun. The first two, especially, I think, are fun. The second one, directed by Louis Leterrier, written by Robert Mark Kamen, And it's also written by Luc Besson as well, who's the original like producer and writer of the movies. Jason Statham, Alessandro Gossman, Amber Valletta, Kate Nauta, Francois Berlin, Keith David, Shannon Briggs, Matthew Modine, and Jason Fleming all star. This one it just kind of ups the ante, ups the action, ups the ridiculousness, which is why I like this one a lot. It's probably my favorite of the franchise. I really disliked the third one, and I never even saw the reboot or remake or whatever they tried to do with it. But this one is just balls to the walls, nuttiness, explosions everywhere. Jason Statham unhooking a bomb from a car with a giant hook, a giant crane hook in the sky is just one of the most masterful like action sequences put into a film like this. Like it's so stupid, but it works so well, and you're just like kind of on the edge of your seat the whole time. When we saw this in theaters, I was really digging this film. And it made me a bigger fan, I think, of the first movie. So if you've kind of ignored the Transporter series, or you want to get back on it, definitely watch Transporter 2 because it is a lot of fun. All right. The next one I have is one I think a lot of people never saw. And I think there was some hype behind it because of who made it, another Luc Besson movie. He makes lots of stupid movies. Now, I didn't put Fifth Element on this list because I like Fifth Element. Like, I think Fifth Element's actually a good movie. Where something like this one that I'm about to talk about, I don't necessarily think it's a good movie, but I do think it's a lot of fun, and it's definitely big and stupid. Luc Besson, he doesn't direct a lot anymore, but he's been returning occasionally. So he did in 2017. He returned with Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. This movie is it very much pairs well with Fifth Element in a, like I said, a lesser intelligent way. It follows two um, like not time cops because they're not, it's not time travel, but like they're guarding like the planetary system, two planet cops, if you will. So they are played by Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne, also starring Clive Owen, Rihanna, Ethan Hawke, Herbie Hancock, Chris Wu, and Rutger Hauer, the late Rutger Hauer. It's a long one too. I saw this one in theaters by myself. This is a movie that I wanted to see, kind of like the more recent Ghost in the Shell remake, or live action adaptation, I should say. The plot is in the 20th century, due to cooperation between the Earth and extraterrestrial peoples, the former International Space Station has been expanded until its mass threatens to cause gravitational disruption to the Earth itself. Relocated to deep space, it becomes Alpha, a space traveling city inhabited by millions of species from thousands of planets. A police division is created by the United Human Federation to preserve peace through the galaxy. Among its staff are the arrogant Major Valerian and his partner, no nonsense Sergeant Laureline. So you have Dane DeHaan doing his very best Bruce Willis impersonation, especially with the blonde hair, totally stealing from Fifth Element. And then you got Cara Delevingne, who's the strong female character who, like they said, no nonsense. She's the kind of the stronger character of the two, I would say, and kind of keeps him in line. Just follows them. They end up patrolling the galaxy, and then they come upon this thing where they have to help this certain race retrieve this thing that was taken from them and basically save the world. That's a lot of what these movies come down to. I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. It opens up this kind of new world. It's based off of like a graphic novel, I think, but it's still an original graphic novel, obviously. Um, just a really fun science fiction story. And yes, it's dumb, and some of the dialogue is really stupid. But it's got great action and great suspense. And I really, really like this big dumb action movie. And they spent a lot of money on it. And unfortunately, it did not make any money back. So it's one of those things that we're never going to get a sequel, most likely. I know Basan has been working with getting stuff put to Netflix and stuff. So maybe he can do like a Netflix sequel or redo the franchise, start over, and see what can happen. But definitely worth checking out. All right, let me do just some other recommendations. Independence Day, Con Air, of course, Demolition Man, Commando, The Running Man, Bloodsport. Some of these I wouldn't like. It's got like The Mummy and Speed. The Mummy and Speed are really good. Here we go. Someone made a list of big dumb action. Die Hard's not a big dumb action movie either. Neither is The Mummy. I mean, any of the Fast and the Furious movies, of course, will fit that. Face Off. A lot, like I said, a lot of Nick Cage '90s films. Executive Decision is one of my favorites as well. Point Break, of course. I think a lot of the Keanu Reeves ones are on here just because he's kind of dumb in a lot of these movies, but I wouldn't call all those movies dumb necessarily. Deep Blue Sea, that's a perfect one to be on a list like this. So if you haven't seen Deep Blue Sea, that's very big and very dumb, but a lot of fun. I mentioned Demolition Man, that's a great one. Great performances from Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone. Also, the original Judge Dredd movie, while not a good movie at all by any stretch, is a fun, big, dumb action movie. Something that you can, be like, oh, this is totally 90s. A lot of Stallone movies from the 90s and even from recent ones, Expendables and stuff. Those are some big, dumb action movies that kind of harken back to the time. Hard Target, Time Cop, some of the great Van Damme 90s ones, even Knockoff, which is really dumb, but it's a fun movie about stolen jeans, which is something like, why did we really need a movie about stolen knockoff jeans? No, but we got one. Probably because that's usually what Van Damme wears in his movies, is very tight jeans. All right, so that's my recommendations for big dumb action movies. I'm sure there's plenty more out there, but I'm going to get to the reviews of the week. We're going to start off with a really big dumb action movie that just came out, and it's called Ambulance, and it's directed by big dumb action movie maker Michael Bay. Six Underground is another recent one of his. He has Pain and Gain, Bad Boys 1 and 2, The Rock, which probably his only truly great movie. Even though I do like Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2 a lot. Those are big dumb action movies too. So if those are something, if you're interested in this style of film. So Ambulance is a simple premise. You got a bunch of bank robbers who need the money. One of them needs the money to get his wife a surgery. That's played by Yahya Abdul Mateen III. He plays Will Sharp, and then his brother is played by, Mateen II. My bad. His brother is played by Jake Gyllenhaal, obviously adopted brother. They grew up together. They have this bond. Eliza Gonzalez plays the paramedic in the ambulance. Garrett Dillahunt plays the FBI man, or not FBI man, but the police officer hunting them down. Carl O'Donnell plays the FBI man who went to school with Jake Gyllenhaal's character. You get this lots of Michael Bay-ish stuff. So there's lots of Bayham, of course, explosions, cars flipping over. The plot is basically once they get the money, everybody else on their team is dead. They're the only two left alive. And Mateen's character, Will, had to shoot a cop to save his brother. And now they're trying to save that cop's life in the ambulance that they have now stolen. And so the police it's a big chase film. So if you're into chase heist films, definitely fits that category. Lots of Michael Bay crane shots and moving shots, and it's all very Bayish. And he, if you like Michael Bay and his style, this movie will definitely fit for you. It is on Peacock right now. I found it to be pretty entertaining. My son, we were watching, and he asked me if I liked it. I'm like, it's not great, but it's fun. It's a big dumb action movie that's a lot of fun. Jake Gyllenhaal brings it. He's mentioned lately that he remembered when he did Spider-Man Far From Home. That's when he kind of remembered that movies were supposed to be fun. So that's why the last couple of years you've seen him kind of choose some more exciting type films, and less art house type films. I think he's still going to do both. But this is an example of just him wanting to do another fun film, and he brings it. I mean, every movie he's in, he kicks ass. And Yahya also, he's quickly becoming a rising star, coming off of Candyman, and The Watchmen wins for Golden Globe, and I believe Emmy wins for his role as the big blue guy. I forget what the hell his name, Dr. Manhattan. So he is, I think, quickly become a sought after actor, and this is a good showcase for him. He does really good here. You tell him and Jake Gyllenhaal just kind of have a natural ability to act, and it really helps. Eliza Gonzalez is really good too, as the third wheel, if you will, as the one trying to keep the cop alive, but also keep herself alive. There's lots of tension. Gyllenhaal's character flirts that line between crazy and charismatic. which is, I think, exactly what they wanted. Where you got Yahaya's character is more the level, calm person, which is why you kind of surprised that he's the one that pulls the trigger. But it was because his brother, Jake Gyllenhaal's character is his brother. They grew up together and they have that bond. Um, yeah, I enjoyed it. I would say 7 out of 10. I'll get Wayne's input next week. He did watch it in preparation for today, but it's definitely worth checking out on Peacock because it's something that I think is going to hold a lot of people's attention. It's a little long. I would maybe make it a little short, but it's expected. Michael Bay, at this point, he's between 2 to 2.5 hours for all his movies. So, but yeah, definitely check it out. So the next one that I watched this week was, I didn't really know much about, and I like going into movies like that, where Ambulance I knew a lot about. I heard a lot of people say how good it was and how bad it was and all this stuff. Where this one I hadn't heard really anything, and I like going into movies like that. And this one is called Emergency. It's the names are kind of similar, Ambulance, Emergency, but it really doesn't. They have nothing to do with each other. What I like about Emergency is it takes the setup of something like a rough night out, like think like a road trip or old school, like where you have the situation where um people like have these things happen to them that are out of their control. So these two guys come back. The two lead actors are RJ Seiler and Donald Elise Watkins, and also Sebastian Chacon plays the third character, Carlos. So you have Carlos, Kunal, and Sean, and they are the three main characters here. It's kind of like one of those. The premise seems more of comedic at first, but it's very serious. Ends up being a pretty serious film. So they go back to their college apartment and they find this girl passed out on their floor. This white girl. The two main characters are black, and the other third character is Hispanic. And so obviously Kuti, who's the main character, or one of the main characters, he wants to call the cops, and that seems like the right thing to do. But in this climate, they use the today's world to kind of explain away a reason for not calling the cops, which is two black guys and a Hispanic guy call the cops, and there's a passed out white girl in their house. What is everybody going to think, right? So they just want to get her to the hospital safely. But of course, as you know, these type of movies, things happen. On the way, they get have to hide her. They have to kind of try to let people know that they're not trying to they're just trying to help her. And there's obviously this undertone of racism throughout the whole film. What prevents you from doing the right thing? The last like maybe 15 minutes of this film are super emotional. I did not expect that. I really, really enjoyed this film. This is one of those kind of special finds that you just hear. It's like, oh, it's a new movie coming out, and we like to do new films on here. And it just a happy accident almost, where you're just like, holy shit, like this is actually really good. And I think a lot of people should see this movie. It definitely is one of those films I think will stand the test of time in a way that we thought we were done with a lot of this racist bullshit years ago, and it's still around, very prevalent in our society. This movie, I think, will have a life of its own for a while. Great performances by Seiler and Donald Elise Watkins. Sebastian Chacon also gives a nice performance as Carlos. There is a couple of those scenes too of where they're all friends, but then they realize that maybe they're not as close friends as they thought and stuff like that. So it's a really entertaining film, but also, like I said, very poignant and emotional, and really kind of hits all the right spots for a movie about race today and the possibilities of things that can happen when you kind of aren't sure who you can trust, I guess. And it really is a very intense film at times too, even though it does have some fun moments too. There is some comedy and some humor to it. We talked about last week with my sister and my brother-in-law about how comedy uses traumatic things or comedy is used in traumatic films, like something like Trainspotting, to make uh, the moment real, because we all use trauma or comedy. We all use comedy in trauma. And I think this movie is no different. There's these three young men are going through a really weird time, and there is some humor that kind of gets them through these moments. And some loyalty and stuff. There's obviously some fighting between the two best friends, played by Seiler and Watkins. It's really really well done, and I really want people to watch this movie. I would say 8.5, 9 out of 10. It's that good. It's on Prime Video right now. It's just a fantastic watch. I think it's something like what we want. I forget the name of it, but the school shooting movie we reviewed earlier this year with Jenna Ortega. Similar to that, like I didn't know what to expect, and this movie kind of just hit me really hard. So definitely check it out. It's on Prime Video right now. Emergency. Watch it. All right. Stuff that I've watched this week. I haven't really posted anything on Instagram. I haven't watched a lot of stuff, but I've kept my actor thing going. My buddy Jason's dad suggested Ed Harris, who I was kind of looking for someone who's a little bit more newer. Not that I, don't know who, some actors are and stuff. I know who pretty much most actors are. I haven't seen all of their movies, but so Ed Harris, I went back and looked, and I think I found 5 movies that I could watch of his. The first one I went with was The Right Stuff, which came out the year I was born, 1983. I really like this movie a lot. It's over 3 hours long, so it took me a couple sittings to sit down and watch it. Great cast: Scott Glenn, Ed Harris, Dennis Quaid, the late. Just drawing a blank on him right now. We just talked about him last week. The late Fred Ward, one of the stars of Tremors. He's in this one as well. I did not know that, so that was a nice reveal to me. I was like, oh, sweet. You get Jeff Goldblum and Harry Shearer, very young here, obviously. Barbara Hershey's in it as well. You get a lot of great performances. It's a really interesting movie. Sam Shepard, who plays the fastest man in a plane but never got to be an astronaut. Does a great job of balancing between the flyboys kind of learning how to break the speed of sound or whatever, and then it transitions to an astronaut movie like the second half. Like Ed Harris doesn't come into this movie. Him and Scott Glenn come in maybe like an hour into the movie, which then you realize that you're like, oh well, there's still like 2.5 hours left, so they're in this movie a lot. They're just not in it in the beginning. But yeah, it's definitely well worth your time if you haven't seen it. It's on HBO and HBO Max right now. Definitely go check it out. I also watched the Netflix one, Along for the Ride. Cutesy, kind of rom-commy, more dramatic, but interesting enough movie, I think, for people to watch. If you like those kind of Netflix originals, romance films, it really fits into that very well. Check it out, Along for the Ride. Also, I started watching season 4 of Stranger Things, which I could speak for all of us. I think we've been waiting for this show to come back, and it's finally time, and it's here. And so far, the first episode, I was in awe of how they ended it, and it was super exciting and a lot of fun. All right, so get to the news and notes, and then we'll wrap up here. Again, just a shorter version of the show this week. All right, so that's last week's. Hold on. Let's see. All right, so the show I talked about that me and my wife really loved, Heartstopper, has been renewed for 2 more seasons at Netflix. Great show. Everybody should get on that show. Law Abiding Citizen sequel in development. Tommy Chong officially returning as Leo in that 70s show sequel series at Netflix. Clara Ruggard and Kit Harington cast as Mary Shelley and the Monster in Mary's Monster. The Crow's Alex Proyas' next film will be Sister Darkness. Rita Moreno joins Fast X as Dom's grandmother. Mel Gibson's On the Line, purchased by Saban Films, with a planned release this November. Samuel L. Jackson joins Chris Pratt in the Garfield animated film. Winnie the Pooh horror film to release later this year. Star Wars Skeleton Crew with Jude Law will hit Disney+. John Watts, Jon Favreau will produce. Jodie Foster to star in True Detective Season 4. Mandalorian Season 3 officially arrives February 2023. Lou Ferrigno to play cannibalistic pig farmer in horror film The Hermit. District 9 director Neil Blomkamp being eyed to helm Gran Turismo video game adaptation film. Animated Tales of the Jedi anthology series hits Disney Plus fall 2022. Release is coming up. Peaky Blinders, the final season, hits Netflix June 10th. Vengeance, starring, written, and directed by BJ Novak, hits theaters July 29th. Boyd Holbrook, Dove Cameron, Issa Rae, and Ashton Kutcher also star. Andor, the Star Wars spinoff starring Diego Luna, hits Disney Plus August 31st. Willow TV series debuts on Disney Plus November 30th. And Day Shift with Jamie Foxx, his new vampire film, hits Netflix August 12th. Deaths this week, we already talked about Ray Liotta. He was only 67. Andy Fletcher from Depeche Mode, co-founder, dead at 60. And actor Bo Hopkins, dead at 80. All right, everybody. So that's our shorter version of the show this week. Hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble off some recommendations for you for some big, dumb action films and my reviews of Ambulance and Emergency. Check, like I said, check both those out. Streaming right now. Ambulance is on Peacock and Emergency is on Prime Video. Hopefully, Wayne will be back next week. I know last week I said he'd be back this week, but some things happened that are out of our control. So again, as always, thank you for listening to Now Showing with Mike and Wayne.
Ronald Reagan, the actor?
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hey, everybody, we're all gonna get laid.